welcome back to Adi's Soul Commute. My name is Adi. Thank you for joining me again on my commute. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the holidays and one of my pet peeves when it comes to holiday gatherings or any type of gathering really when it comes to my child and type 1 diabetes. So as you know, or as I've mentioned before, when my son needs to eat and it's any type of carbs, we obviously need to dose him. So there's the insulin carb ratio. So for every X amount of carbs, he has to have X amount of insulin. And so we normally give that insulins on board for about 2.5 hours. Usually the fast acting usually tends to work in, for my son at least, between 30 to 40 minutes. It takes a while for him, for the fast acting to act fast. And so one of the most difficult things that I find is when you go to holiday parties or events, birthday parties or whatnot. Granted, I do have non-type 1 diabetes children. I have children who don't have it. And so I know what it's like when you go to a birthday party or you go to somebody's house for the holidays and there's all this bunch of foods and treats and sweets and cupcakes and goodies that, you know, sometimes to entertain kids, they're like, oh, well, here's a cupcake. And that makes it really hard on my child. And it makes it tough on us too, because, you know, once he's already been exposed to the idea of all the kids having a cupcake or a treat, I have to determine whether or not he can have it, whether there's insulin already on board, whether I play around with the numbers, and it just puts us in a tough situation. And in the real world, I would love for people to take notice of that. There's nothing wrong, obviously, with offering the kids the goodies and the treats, but it kind of sucks when you have to have all these things. You got to think about all these things ahead of time, you know, whether he has insulin on board, whether his numbers are too high, you know, if it's a treat before dinner, you know, is it worth having the treat? Because then I'm going to have to double dose him. And there's just so many things that we have to think about, that it would be really cool if, you know, when you gather around for events and holidays, for somewhat of a smooth transition, that you get asked before, you know, those treats get distributed to kids. You know, I know it sucks to kind of hold off on all the kids because, you know, if my kid can't have it, then nobody can. No, I'm not like that either. But at least you kind of not put in that spot where you have to tell your kid no. Thankfully, I've never had that incident where I had to tell my kid no. But still, it's tough. It's really tough when you know, you're at a gathering, there's people around, and, you know, the kids want a treat or, you know, a snack or an appetizer before dinner, which is going to be served within maybe 30-40 minutes. And so these are things that us parents with children with type 1 diabetes have to think about. And it kind of puts us in a tough jam. At least it puts me. I'm speaking on my behalf. It puts me in a predicament where I'm like, man, I guess I'm going to have to give it to him, and I'm going to have to double dose him. I don't want to pinch him twice, but the kid wants the treat just like everybody else. I'm not going to out him on that. And so those are the things that, although they seem really simple, they seem really insignificant, it makes a huge impact on him as a child. Everybody's having the chips, or everybody's having all the goodies, and I'm not going to prevent him from having them, but it would be a good thing to get a heads up. That's the word I was looking for. Get a heads up. That's something to consider when having these gatherings, that anything. I'm not saying that I micromanage, but yeah, I kind of do, because I have to. That's what type 1 diabetes is about. You gotta micromanage every single detail, every single thing that your child consumes. That's something that you have to be micromanaging, and I kind of feel like you're put out of whack when you're presented with situations like this. That they're easily manageable, yes. In some instances, my son can be low, and it would be a perfect opportunity to give him, whatever treats are being handed out. And then when dinner comes around, I could probably dose him for both of them. That's just the way I handle things. Everybody handles it differently. I play with the numbers a lot. In some instances, if I know I'm going to an event, a party, any kind of social event where there's going to be food and my child is with me, there's many instances where I will let his numbers not go below range, but that they subtly drop, so that way I give myself that room to add on any special treats. And that's a good tip too for many parents, so that you're not caught off guard in those situations where that there's going to be all these goodies and treats, and just prepare yourself. Prepare for those things ahead of time so that you're not caught off guard. It was hard at the beginning for me, because I was like, oh my God, no, he can't have anything, because, then he's going to have dinner, and then I'm going to have a double dose, and then I'm not confident enough, and I don't know. And it's okay. It's not a huge deal. It is manageable. Just make sure that you prepare yourself ahead of time. Now during the holidays, I tend to, when I know that I'm going to go to, any sort of gathering, I play with his numbers a lot. I really do. Now, that's just me. I'm not saying you go off and do that. However, I know many of you parents, diet mamas out there, that you know what you're doing, and I'm sure you have your way of handling these situations. I'm just talking about how I handle mine. But yeah, if I know, it's kind of funny because I kind of psych myself up for it, maybe even a day before, and know that, okay, well, he'll have breakfast, and then he'll have lunch, and then maybe a snack, and then kind of play with his numbers, and hopefully make it on time to be able to, for him to enjoy all the goodies that are going to be given out at the party, and I can manage them better. So if he gets to the party with low numbers, meaning, let's say he gets a lovely unicorn and he's at 100, and he's gonna have some chips. Well, I have a good 20-30 grams to play around with, and I kind of play around with him too, because especially those tortilla chips, which are delicious, I can grab one huge one and crack it for him, and now it's 4. So it's kind of, it's definitely a mind game between him and between my husband and, well, all of us. Kind of play around with him in that sense. Because, Of course, a child doesn't want just one chip. Nobody wants one chip. So that's a perfect example. If I see that there's tortilla chips, then you grab the biggest one in the bowl, you crack it up, and now you have 4. And we're still within, the carb count. It's all a mind game. It's a carb game too, come to think about it. It is manageable. However, I just tell those, families and friends who know they're gonna have someone with type 1 diabetes join. I'm not saying you need to change your entire menu, no, because my child can eat everything. It's all about timing and carb counting and, injections that we prefer to avoid. So when you know that there's going to be special treats or random treats that are going to be called out, then just give the adult the heads up that, hey, listen, by the way, I have these treats that I made for the kids. Do you mind if I, pass them around? And I can kind of, the parent can kind of prepare themselves ahead of time versus, oh my God, what do I do now? You know what I mean? Either way, we always look forward to all of our holiday parties and all of our birthday parties and all those events because they're kids. At the end of the day, they're kids and they enjoy participating because they are kids and they are normal. Then type 1 diabetes doesn't stop them from doing any of that stuff. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this video, of course, please like, please share, please subscribe. And as always, I wish you tons of love, tons of light, and above all, a ton of health. Thank you so much. Bye.